My name's Doug Griffin with Faceshift. I've spent the better part of the last 2 decades working in the game and visual effects world, always with an intent on tracking human motion. Sometimes that's body movement, sometimes that's hand movement, sometimes that's faces. And I've been lucky enough to work for these entertainment giants like Industrial Light and Magic, Electronic Arts, and Image Movers Digital. That's been really quite amazing because they've afforded the luxury, the budget, the manpower to do some really amazing tracking of human people with the intent of always driving a virtual avatar. In fact, my last kind of production experience in the visual effects kind of film world, I literally spent $2 million on hardware to track actors' facial expressions. That's $2 million. That didn't include the people. I had a staff of about 40 people. There was a group of PhDs in our R&D department building kind of back-end tools to retarget facial expressions onto digital characters. It didn't include the makeup artists painting little dots meticulously on actors every day. It was expensive. It was cumbersome. It certainly was not real time, and it was not a consumer experience by any imagination. Now, if you step forward a handful of years, suddenly everything's changed. You know, VR in its, what is this, the third wave of VR? Something like that. Is finally, looks like it's going to be a consumer experience. Really just amazing. But the fundamental concern that I have is that all of these environments that we're looking at, all these experiences we have, are not alive. I'm worried that we're going to bore of them after time, simply looking at sort of static environments or pre-recorded animations. I think if we want to build a truly virtual reality, that we have to bring this stuff to life. And that's what Faceshift does. We use commercially available depth scanners that I'm going to show you tonight. Our software converts the output of these scanners into facial expressions that can be retargeted onto digital characters. The systems that we currently support are similar to the Kinect. The one I'm showing you right now is a company called PrimeSense. They actually built the original mechanics that Microsoft licensed for the original Kinect. And the sensor I'm using tonight is a slightly newer version of that. And they actually, at last year's CES, announced a sensor. I'm going to just pull that up real quick. That looks like this. Wow. It was a tiny board-level sensor that could be embedded into laptops and tablets. They announced that in January 2013 with the intent of launching it around November 2013. And lo and behold, they got bought in October by Apple. Now, what Apple's doing with this, I don't know. They're always pretty secret. But what I do know is this has spurred on a huge wave of excitement in depth sensors. And there's a lot of companies building new depth sensors to embed them into consumer devices. For instance, this is the new RealSense 3D camera from Intel. I actually just returned from Taiwan. I was at Computex with Intel, where they had this embedded into a laptop, and we showed our system running live at the opening keynote of Computex with the president of Intel and one of the employees tracking her face live, and it was amazing. This sensor will be embedded into consumer devices this year. Lenovo, Dell, Asus, and other companies have already signed on to start producing laptops with this at the end of this year. We hope to see millions, tens of millions next year. And Intel has made a tablet form factor as well. So suffice to say that there are consumer devices, handheld devices, laptop devices, that will enable consumers to have virtual reality experiences, and that's coming to stores, to Best Buys near you later this year. We're really excited about that because we've been building a piece of software that uses these sensors to capture faces, and the core market we're selling to right now are these game studios, interactive design agencies, animation studios, visual effects studios. We have Electronic Arts, Black Tusk up in Vancouver, DreamWorks is actually using us. If you've seen the DreamWorks TV YouTube channel, they're driving Kung Fu Panda and Puss in Boots and so on and so forth, producing content almost daily using our sensor. That certainly wouldn't be plausible with the type of hand animation that they do on their films at the moment. And it's truly incredible. These big OEMs that are going to be building devices are looking for reasons for consumers to buy a laptop with an embedded device. And despite the fact that what I'm going to show to you in a minute is our desktop application for animation studios, we also have an SDK that does much of the same functionality. And our goal is to enable third-party developers to build interactive, low-latency, immersive experiences for consumers, and we hope those things will launch this year or next year. So let me jump aside, and I'm actually going to show you literally what we do. To start off with, you can see me. These sensors have a RGB sensor in them, and they have a depth sensor as well, so I can show you kind of the input. That's me in 3D space, as you can see my hands and stuff as well. We take those two input streams, video and depth data, we put them together, and essentially this is what our input is into our software. From this part forward, you're going to see Faceshift kind of in all its glory. What we do is we convert these input sources into expressions. And to do that, we have to understand the physical appearance of a person across a handful of expressions. So this is literally me in my neutral pose, in my open mouth pose, and my smile, and so on and so forth. Our desktop application that I'm showing you right now suggests that you capture about 20 of these expressions. And you certainly will get the best kind of animation results if you do this. But certainly you can collect less. And so the SDK actually doesn't require you to capture any of these expressions. The moment you get in front of one of these cameras, it begins to recognize that there's a face, it tells you the head pose, it gives you eye gaze information, and the longer you're in front of it and the more expressive you are, the better the expression results are. To give you just an idea what that looks like and what the process is, I'm going to come into this neutral pose. And what you saw there on the left was the raw data, and on the right was our kind of accumulated depth data that helped create this scan of me. And what our system does is it takes our default head and it deforms it to match the geometry and appearance of the person in front of the camera. So that's what's happening right now. Had I done more of these expressions, it would step through each one of those, accurately understanding what I look like across a number of expressions and breaking those into asymmetrical parts of my face. But this actually works right off the bat just with one expression. So if I come into Faceshift, now you can actually see me talking off that single pose. So you can see my head movement, we're getting eye gaze, not only just eye tracking, but we determine a point in 3D space where you're looking. And of course, if I smile or do anything else, you get those expressions as well. And to give you an idea of what that looks like, I can actually just drop it right over the top of my head, which is sort of an eerie look at someone. You get someone with really big hair. I'm actually going to, just like a cooking show, I've just dropped that in the oven and I'm going to pull the one that's pre-baked out. So this is a file I made of myself, I don't know, a few months ago or something like that. It contains all my expressions. And the good thing is, once you've trained your kind of profile of yourself, that's a file that you can just load in at any given time. And that will provide even better kind of quality. Now the cool thing about this is that we're converting this live depth map and this video image into not only this animated avatar, but also these things you see in the bottom right corner. Hope you can see those.
Yeah.
These little lines, this little equalizer, what that represents, each line represents a different expression on my face. So if I smile, you'll see these two lines come from 0 up to 100%. If I raise my eyebrows, you'll see these two lines pop up. So basically you're getting 0 to 1 values. There are 58 floats of these different expressions on your face. This is extremely lightweight data that can be transmitted virtually anywhere with incredibly low latency. So if you wanted to make an immersive experience with me as a game player having my facial expressions on my game character in real time and seeing my buddies' facial expressions on their characters, that's a snap. You don't have to compress data, transmit it, decompress it. It's a tiny little bit of data that transmits fluidly. In addition, we record audio as well that's synchronous with this data, so all of that can be kind of transmitted. But really it's what you do with this stuff that's kind of important. I think one of our greatest technologies is the fact that we can take those expressions and map them onto characters really easily. So we've got a couple demo characters in here just to sort of prove the concept. So this is Macaw, is his name. And you can see that, you know, my facial expressions are driving him live. He looks a little bit like me, and even if I pick Sven here, Sven even has my hairline, unfortunately, but you can see that I'm driving him live. But it certainly doesn't have to resemble anything like you. Even Sven's eyebrows are quite, you know, dramatic and stuff. I could drive a female character, for instance, just as easily. That's girls. It's just my inner feminine side. Or just as easily a non-human character, and so on and so forth. So you're kind of getting an idea that we can drive a real wide variety of characters. We've even had people take the output stream that we have and connect it up to live physical devices. So we had someone who connected it up to a MIDI keyboard and used his facial expressions to drive music live. You could actually play music with your face. I don't know if it sounded good, but that's not, that's not up to me to decide. But essentially this is what we do, and we offer up... Sorry. We offer up a handful of characters in here just to sort of demonstrate this with. People can bring their own characters in here, or we've got plugins in a wide variety of third-party packages. So if you're an animator, you might use Maya or Cinema 4D, for instance, or Motion Builder for a mocap studio. I'm sorry, I can't talk when there's a dog in front of me. Let me come back to this guy. And we also have plugins for Unity, for instance, and we've had a lot of people express a lot of interest in building sort of consumer-facing Unity applications. In fact, I'll pull one up really quick just to give you an idea. This is actually very different than driving a live character, because there's no character whatsoever. Basically, I'm going to use my face as an input device, a joystick, and I'm going to drive with my expressions the color of this.
Someone had goggles.
That's a great question. You don't, actually. So what I'm hoping is, I'm super excited about the Rift and these kind of immersive wearable headsets. Not about that bug that was flying in front of me. But at the moment, they cover up half your face, so there's not much we can do. Certainly you've got the group up in Seattle, whose name's...
Technical Illusions.
Technical Illusions, and the product is... sorry.
CastAR.
CastAR. That would work fine. So they have very small form factor with projectors out onto a retroreflective screen. Perfectly fine. I chatted with a startup at SFVR that had a fairly small system with just a couple mirrors in front of the eyes, and we tracked the entire face perfectly. We just didn't have eye tracking. Nevertheless, if you look at the big players, Rift and maybe Samsung or whoever's going to come out with, or Sony, I guess, come out with their big headsets. At the moment, I don't see a way that we can actually get much of the face. But certainly those things are going to change immensely over the next couple years, and I think the form factor, the resolution, the latency, everything about those is going to change over the next couple years. So I think we're in a pretty good position at that point to do something really cool.
Sorry to be a dick and not say how awesome that demo was.
No, thanks. That's the first thing I ever said. So how do I use it with my wrist?
Well, actually, you try the eyebrows and the gaze.
Say that one more
So
time.
if you try the eyebrows and the gaze of the eyes, right?
Yeah.
Like
So
the dots.
right now, so we use both depth and video. So just to back up a second. So we're using this depth information. We're using that video information. And just a moment ago, it was pretty dark on my face. You can see with the depth only data that it is pretty difficult with today's sensors to pick up really accurate set of eyelids, for instance. Same thing on my lips. They're just, it's a little raw. That sensor that I showed you from Intel, not only is the depth data better, but it runs at twice the frame rate, and it has a 1080p video sensor on it versus this one, which I think is 640 by 480. It's kind of noisy. So at the moment, what we do is we bias the tracking so that it uses more of the textures for the eyelids and the lips. And if your lighting's not so good, then it degrades a bit. And we use more of the depth data for head tracking. But we actually have, I'll just pull this up here. We have a little slider that would allow you to slide between using almost pure geometry for tracking. I don't know if you can see this. So that's almost pure geometry, and if I slide it over here, it's almost pure textures. With that bias on the eyelids and the head tracking. Yeah. So it really gives us an advantage of having kind of multiple sources to pull from and to balance that. Did that answer your question, or did I go off on a complete tangent?
No, that's,
Yeah.
Okay, I got two questions. David O from Leap Motion. One being, when do you foresee an OEM actually embedding this technology to be consumer ready? And two, when do you think Apple's going to buy your technology?
Well, on answer your question two, I'm going to announce tonight, for the first time ever, we've just been purchased for $3 billion. that is a joke, by the way. I have no idea what Apple's up to.
Make it out of cardboard.
Yeah, we'll make it out of cardboard, but Google will get us. The first question, so I know Lenovo and Dell and Asus and all these people are embedding the Intel sensor into laptops later this year. We hope that we're going to be there with them. So we've had a lot of interest since we were at Taiwan, and we think that we're going to have, we hope to produce some stuff or to enable other people to produce things when those hit the stores. So, I mean, what you're seeing right now is our desktop application, but we've got an SDK that does all of this, so I'm sure there's a lot of developers out there. These OEMs are desperate for example applications. In fact, Intel's got a $1 million app challenge happening, and I don't think Lenovo and others are throwing out $1 million, but certainly they're looking for examples. And we hope that we can help with our SDK, help make interactive experiences for people. Yeah. Yeah.
So what are the limitations right now in terms of the lighting and the source of laser and whatever you've got in there that makes it happen?
Yeah, so what you're looking at right now with the depth data is an infrared projection onto my face. If there was a lot of sunlight or a lot of, if these were halogen or tungsten lights putting on a lot of heat on me right now, that would interfere with the depth data quite a bit. On the other hand, the video data can easily kind of be pretty poor as well. So if I look kind of at my eyes at the current resolution, not only do you see how noisy it is on my face, but it gets a little bit difficult to see the pupil relative to the rest of the eye. Having a bit more light really helps that quite a bit. So this is pretty dim for us. Ideally we have non-hot light that's kind of evenly distributed, no harsh shadows, that sort of thing. That's really your best results. But we work, I've been outside on a foggy day, it works perfectly fine. I've been in kind of quite a few environments and it works great. So.
Do you provide the lighting solutions as well, or just
We don't. We want to be hardware agnostic. So If we built hardware, it would be expensive. We'd have to put a lot of money into it. We'd have to transfer that on to our customers. And so we're trying to ride the wave of hardware development that's happening and simply kind of take advantage of that. And we know of not only the Intel sensor that's coming, but there's a handful of other depth cameras that are on their way that we should see, I think later this year, if not next year. So, yeah, I'm going to go way in the back there.
So what was involved with breaking up on these models?
Okay, so inside of our application or inside of Unity, we have a little, I'm going to just kind of show this really quickly. We have methods to pull models into here via FBX files. But in here and in Unity, you need a joint for the neck, a joint for each eye, and blend shapes everywhere else. In Maya and Motion Builder and Cinema 4D, all these animation packages, you can drive basically any rig you want. It doesn't matter if it's joint driven, blend shape driven, bunch of nulls. What you do is you simply grab everything that drives your character, kind of hand that over to our free plugin, and then for every one of our output blend shapes, you just pose your character the same way, and then it goes live. So, good question. Yeah.
Is there any danger of IR interference? I mean, how wide is the IR spectrum with like other IR devices like Oculus?
Oh, that's a good question. So,
where there's like a lot of
there
frequency, or how much
is risk of that. Yeah. Now, certainly, Shlomo would probably know better than I do, but certainly these things produce a wavelength in a certain spectrum, and I've heard that they change per device slightly. We've tried to make, we've built a prototype wearable system that you can actually put on your head, and primarily aimed at kind of mocap studios who are tracking the body and also want to track the face while the actors are moving around. And motion capture cameras put a lot of infrared off as well. So I've been in a studio far smaller than this with about 50 cameras, all mix of infrared and near infrared cameras, and it didn't have any problem at all. But it's certainly possible, that you might have problems depending on other sources around. Yeah. Way in back.
So is this being used for handicapped people yet? It seems a lot better than eye blink.
For which? For eye tracking?
Well, for typing, say, people that are...
Not that I know of at the moment. So our eye tracking's pretty good. We're certainly not Tobii. We don't have a $30,000 piece of hardware that runs at 1,000 frames per second with sub-millimeter accuracy. It's pretty good, especially when the lighting's a little bit better than what we have right now, and certainly could be used for those kind of areas. So, yeah.
So what exactly does your API put out?
So what this puts out are TCP/IP, a stream of data of floats for each one of these things. Our SDK has calls. You can get it over TCP/IP or UDP, and then you've got calls as well that you can grab from. But essentially, it's 0 to 1 float values for every one of our expressions. Yeah. All right, way in the back over there.
Is the addition of hair something you would consider to add in the future?
Are you worried about my hair or the avatar's hair? You mean simulating hair?
Like, for example, obviously hair in real life, however...
I have some.
Well, however, in your avatar, it's very bald.
Very bald. Yeah. All of our avatars have geometric hair. We, in our application, don't have any physics, any simulation, anything like that. You could take an avatar like this with geometric hair, and there's some joints in here as well, and stream that into Unity, and you could have some physics on the hair, for instance. We don't intend to actually do any of those things within our application, because most people use our application to really track faces and to stream that into their own engine or 3D system, much of which has far better renderer capabilities than we have. We want to really be good at kind of this aspect of it, primarily. I sold that one first. So.
Can people librate
of your avatars?
Maybe. I haven't worked with any lip readers yet. Certainly if the light's better than what you're seeing in here, the lips get better than what you're seeing now. Let me come back to some other character just for the heck of it. I don't know, maybe they could. Yeah, there we go, that's a little bit better. You know, I think that we are pretty good right now, whether we're good enough for, I would love to see Skype avatar, you know, people having interactive chats or taking it to the next level. Gameplay, I think allowing the game player's facial expression to be on their character in real time and allow that person to see his buddies that could be anywhere in the world. There's some guy from China, there's his friends from Chicago, and to be immersed in sort of a game environment, an interactive environment would just be fantastic. We have people like High Fidelity, which I think have spoken here before, building the sort of next-gen virtual environment. So Philip Rosedale, he kind of invented Second Life and is doing next-gen. They're using our stuff at the moment in their alpha. So that's a web-based kind of VR experience. They actually have their board meetings in their virtual reality experience. They turn and talk to each other and ask each other questions and stuff like that. So, you know, I think there's a lot of, you know, teleconferencing, there's a lot of kind of immersive applications, but gaming to me could be quite fun. Yeah.
Last question.
Okay, with the glasses there? Yeah.
Yeah, so to push the fidelity further, do you think it's more blend shapes or better tracking? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. We're constantly evaluating the blend shapes that we track. So on our one of our recent releases, we came out with sort of a customizable blend shape system, so you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want. You can make them asymmetrical. If you've got a character that takes less blend shapes than what you see here, you could trim it down so that you get the most fidelity on the shapes that you're interested in. So we're constantly kind of improving the output for characters, and we're constantly kind of milking more out of these sensors and getting better at sort of tracking. This release I'm showing you right now came out a week ago, and it's kind of a big jump from what we had before as well. So yeah, we're just full steam away on making it better. So yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it.